sleuth.
What is up? Welcome to another Sleuth Intuition Live. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I know that I did. Well, we're going to do what we pretty much always do here on this channel. We're going to talk about some information, some facts regarding the Delphi double homicide. And then we'll kind of see where the discussion kind of ends up and where this conversation will lead us. So let's see who we got in the house today. Hey, what's up, Jen? Rich. What's up, kid? Hey, Kathy. Bird Blue. What's up, Tommy? Little Smack. Big Joe, what's up? Hey, Purdue. Teresa. Olivia. AD. H. Doc. Likes the emojis. What's up? Hey, Brett. Good to see you. Hi, Laura. Yeah, the camping was amazing. Did a ton of fishing. Did a ton of hiking, too. Yeah, had a great time. Got a little sunburn, but other than that, it was perfect. Good. Glad you can make it. What's up, Eminem? Hey, Jill. I hope you're feeling better. Hope everything's well. What's up, Jim? Hey, Polly. Sally. Hi, Tina. Please win a video game. Good for you. It's awesome. Yeah, it was magnificent. Much needed. Hey, Teresa. Good to see you guys. Little Smack, hello. I saw that comment. I was like, hey, I got about a 5-hour drive. I don't know if I'm going to make it in time. Always got leftovers. Hey, what's up, Tony? Frank's in the house. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is play a little video that I found this morning where a news outlet actually gathered some factual information in regards to the time that was spent with Libby and Abby on Sunday. And they got some good shots of the softball field where they were practicing and breaking in some of their gear, apparently. So let's take a look at that. What's up, Cindy? No, but we'll figure it out.
Where emotions are again running high after a plea from Liberty German's grandfather to find whoever killed his granddaughter and her friend, Abby Williams. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Fechner.
I'm Erica Fly. This is the first time we've heard from Libby or Abby's family since their bodies were found more than 3 weeks ago.
RTV6's Chance Walser tonight has new insight into the lives the two teens led before they went on that hike back on February the 13th.
We're at Riley Park tonight in Delphi. This is where Abby and Libby played softball. Today, Libby's family and former coach talked about how much this place in particular meant to her.
Even if you were having a bad game or whatever and girls were down, she'd, kind of bump them, trying to get them back in a better mood.
Bridget Stevens coached Libby's 2014 and 2015 softball teams. She thinks back fondly on those days at Riley Park. Libby was an eager participant.
And if she couldn't play a position, she wanted to try it. So she was always wanting to try something different.
Our girls were excited about the upcoming softball season.
Today, Libby's grandfather addressed a room full of reporters. On February 12th, he said, the day before they went missing, Libby and Abby came here to dust off their equipment and skills. Big plans cut short by a killer still on the loose.
But they'll never get to play a single inning again.
From a pulpit, Mike Patty echoed the familiar plea of the last 3 weeks. Look at this picture and keep the hotline busy with tips. He also thanked the public for their relentless support, both emotional and monetary support. The German family will use their share of donation money to set up a scholarship fund in Libby's name.
The love that's poured upon us and the support is welcomed, and we could surely use that right now.
Mike also wants to build a new softball field and park in memory of those girls who spent many a spring evening on the field together. Chance Walser, RTV6.
The tip line is.
So I thought that was pretty interesting that they're verifying that they were in fact playing catch at Riley Field on Sunday. So I wonder if that plays into that had anything to do, but it does help with the timeline. So I wonder if the killer was either maybe watching from afar, maybe being themselves and Anthony shots at the same time, inside information. I just wonder if it plays a part at all. That Sunday. So I wonder if there was anybody else that was hanging out with them at the park that could kind of clear that up. Or maybe it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, Riley Park is in Delphi. Hey, Purdue. What's up, Jill? On Tony Klein, I haven't heard much. Pretty sure he's been laying low since the Anthony shot stuff started picking up some steam in the media. Deb, I guess like 3 days ago. I just trimmed it up a little bit. Yeah, I thought it was important for the timeline. There's no more speculation. They were able to verify that information. They were, in fact, there midday Sunday at Riley Park. So if we can put anybody else there around that time, I don't know if that's, maybe that could be helpful. Could be watching. Yeah, who knows? Maybe the killer was following them all weekend long, just watching from afar. And they wouldn't know what the killer looked like. He could be in a car, binoculars, tracking them with his phone at the same time, just waiting for the right moment. No luck Sunday. Saturday rolls around. And then the girls end up on the trails and on the end of a bridge. Killer watching, can't resist. He's looking around. Nobody's on the trail right now. He sees them isolated on the far end. And if he has been watching for days at a time, weekends at a time, he may be growing impatient. Kind of like it's now or never. or he was just watching them and, just to make sure everything went as planned for Monday. Yeah, we're going to make the room just a little bit smaller for him. Well, Woe Free says it feels more and more like it will never be solved. Law enforcement needs to step up with more info. Well, the thing is, it's not solved, so we can't sit around and just because we're so exhausted by the case and so frustrated, and just start to make believe that it has been solved, because this case isn't solved. And I've been paying so much attention to it, and it's just kind of become important to me as it is to you guys. I want to see Delphi happy. I want to see those people, because when you go over these stories and you get so interested in a case, you start to learn about these people. You learn about how they live and how wholesome they are, and you can't help but just feel really horrible and kind of sorry at the same time. And you want to see this thing resolved, and you want to see all of that reversed somewhat. And things will never be the same for them or victims in general. Hey, public. What's up, Grunge? Local hotels. Yeah, we're going to get into some of the FBI behavioral information that's provided in this case, and we're going to talk about it here in just a second, actually. We're going to talk about some things that Greg Mass says. I think I found it. Yeah, I did find an article also. Basically, he gives us a list of what we should be looking for. And this is stuff he's asking for after the Anthony Shots information has already been obtained. So they're still missing one puzzle piece. Lisa, are you referring to the John Weaver that was heard on the radio chatter? Yeah, Ricky. Ricky Carr says Libby's mom said in an interview like 4 years ago that she last spoke with Libby on Snapchat on the 13th. If Libby was on Snapchat on the 13th, she could have been lured to the trails. Well, not only could she have been lured to the trails, if she was planning to go on the trails and she was making that information public, if the killer was cyber stalking her, he would have known that. And he could have just kept up with them, followed their schedule. Especially somebody with nothing to do during the day, or somebody who calls out sick. And, these aren't conspiracy theories. We're going to listen to Doug Carter right now and Greg basically say, hey, the guy down the street, that seems weird. If you think, something was going on at that time. So basically, they're going to give us what some people are calling conspiracy theories. We're going to hear from these professionals here, and they're as desperate after the Anthony Shots information as they were before. And we're going to start with Doug Carter, then we're going to go into Greg Massa, and we're going to listen in detail what they're asking us to do.
Who this individual is. Someone knows who this individual is. Is it a family member? Is it a neighbor? Is it an acquaintance? Is it an associate? Or maybe that one guy that lives over at that one place that just kind of not right. And if you're watching, we'll find you. Who's next? I hate to ask you that question. I'd give my life to not have to. But I know you've asked yourself that very question. We must recognize it. You see, we're all the same. We're all human beings. We must keep our resolve for Libby and Abby.
So I thought it was interesting for those words to come out of Doug Carter's mouth. He mentioned the guy that lives down the street that may be a little strange. Sounds like a conspiracy theory. Oh, let me go back. I meant to address this. Tax cut says, or the killer overheard them discussing going to the trail. Yeah, because these girls seem to be very active. If they're out and about, leaving their phone, in somebody else's hands. I even heard a rumor that Libby had her phone taken away that week. So, I mean, if it was taken out of her possession, I wonder who the males could have been, young, curly-haired, light brown hair, who could have had access to it. Now, that's a conspiracy theory also. But you just never know. That's just rumor. But yeah, I like that thought. What if somebody at the park that day, Sunday, overheard the girls talking, was eavesdropping? Who knows what these guys do? Some of them are very technically sound. You had some pervert who was a manager of a restaurant. He went in all the ladies' facilities and put microphones and cameras up, and he was getting away with this for years. That's highly sophisticated. That's not somebody just sticking a phone over a tanning bed or something, that we hear of often. That's extremely sophisticated and very scary. Because it's not just happening to women, fellas. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, a prearranged meeting. So let's say the Anthony shots is the key to the killer. Killer has access to the Anthony shots, says, hey, we're going to meet. I'll meet you at, I'm leaving town. Let's meet before I head out. She says, well, why don't you meet us at the Monon High Bridge? Well, let's meet there at 1:30. Girls get there at 1:30. Bridge guy gets there at 12, and he finds a good place to kind of duck and hide. Notices there's traffic, but not much traffic. The girls show up at 1:30. No Anthony shots. No good-looking guy from Alaska, getting ready to head out on his next business trip. That guy is nowhere to be seen. So 2:00 rolls around. Still nothing. So Abby and Libby say, hey, why don't we just kill some time? Let's just head up the bridge. Not completely unaware that this killer is watching them like he was watching them the day before, maybe prior. Who knows? So as he sees the girls walk down the bridge, he sees them isolating themselves further and further and further. And if he's watching this and he's becoming impatient and he's looking around left to his right, and, he's like, hey, there's nobody on these trails right here. Maybe he walks to the end of the road, looks around, and then he says, all right, I can't handle this anymore. I got to go. And, whatever's motivating him, these guys, something is causing them to basically be insane. Anybody that can go and do that, they're completely out of their mind. Something is, making them mad, basically. They're like a wild animal. Can't resist. The girl's completely unaware. They believe they've just been stood up. Oh, I never thought I would ever meet this guy. Maybe he ran out of time. Maybe he had to leave. But the killer's been watching them, cannot resist. And I think that's probably what happened. Yeah, just parked around a corner. I mean, there's a rail road right there too. Those railroad tracks, they run all the way, I think, from from Logan all the way to Lafayette. What's up, BK? I like that picture. Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's the man. Wasn't Abby's granddad in town staying at a hotel the weekend of the murders? I wonder what hotel that was and if she stayed the night with him that weekend. BG could have been there. Yes, he did. Abby called her grandfather and said, "Hey, look, I got to step up. I'm joining the softball team, but I need some new gear." That's grandpa duty right there. Grandpas love that kind of stuff. Not to mention, it's a good excuse to come hang out with your granddaughter. So just all the news reports that I've seen, he spent all Saturday with her and then left on Sunday. And I think that's when she took all that equipment and went to the park later that Sunday. Because one of the news reports that I was watching it states it was on a Saturday. They were outside of a hotel room and there was a little patch of grass and they were playing catch right there. So, snap map. I don't know if that technology was available to the public on Snapchat. I keep hearing conflicting stories about if that was available to you as a Snapchat user at that time. Yeah, that whole thing's interesting, but seems to more information that relates to that gets taken out of context. Hey, Sylvia. Yep, I had a great trip. Good point. Well, let's dive into some Greg Massa here, and we'll watch a tiny clip, and then I'll read a news report I found that relates directly to this clip.
The experts from our behavioral analysis unit have discussed behavioral indicators that this individual may have exhibited on the day of the killings on Monday, February 13th, to include, at the time, reasons for why they may have missed work, or they were out sick, or they canceled an appointment at the last minute. And at the time, it seemed plausible, but it no longer holds water.
Did you guys catch that? So he's asking about, was there somebody that called in sick, gave you a story about it, but that reason no longer makes any sense? Sounds like a conspiracy theory. Maybe comfort, Brittany, I'm assuming. That's true, Marsh. Because when we go on vacation, I like to go to a few of the same places. I could see that. Nobody really knows, but those real close to you, those locations that you're going to. So it would take somebody like that to tip that information in. That small circle. I believed Anna lived with her mom, maybe a weird dynamic between mom and dad. That's a guess. I'm really not sure. Yeah, everybody has their own personal preferences, issues, domestic issues, I guess. Snap Map rolled out in 2017, really, where you can actually see like where your friends were on the map. That's very dangerous. Yep, grunge truck. Yeah, because it would be easy to shave a beard. I could shave this entire beard and probably maybe even to the skin in less than 5 minutes if I had like some trimmers and a razor blade. But you really would only need clippers and have a little 5 o'clock shadow going on. Lil Smack says, just Pam. The Snapchat mapping, it wasn't until June 21st of 2017. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this article from Greg Massa. He kind of gives us a list of what he wants us to look for when it comes to tipping some people in that we may originally disregard. Okay, so that's Greg Massa there, FBI agent. The dude was famous during the whole 9/11 incident, educating other law enforcement on how to deal with terrorism and stuff like that. Well, it says here the FBI is asking everyone to take a closer look at the people around you, report any major changes in behavior or appearance over the last several weeks, anything that seems strange, so they can check it out. If a person started abusing drugs, if a sleep pattern has changed, any indication like that taken on its own doesn't mean a thing. But when it's put into a broader context of timing and location, maybe, said FBI Special Agent in charge, Greg Massa. The FBI is looking for anyone who changed their appearance, cut their hair, or drastically changed the way they dress, started abusing drugs or alcohol when they wouldn't have beforehand, has become anxious or irritable, has followed this case and what the media is releasing with a sense that is not normal, has a different sleep pattern now, has been having ongoing conversations about where they were on the February 13th, traveled unexpectedly after February 13th, canceled an appointment around February 13th, called in sick to work, or suddenly skipped a social engagement. Yeah, the one leaving traveled unexpectedly after the 13th or called in sick that day. Yeah, there definitely seems to be a feel of corruption. I don't have anything that can prove that. Excuse me, guys. But it definitely has that feel. I'm not sure Outback. Okay, so what I want to get into now is I took little bits and pieces from something Crime Watch did. I didn't want to show the whole thing because some of it seemed a little strange and overly produced. But they talked to Dan McCain, Slocum, and they both say some interesting things. So we'll take a look there here in just a second. Wow. What's up, Emily? Yeah, I mean, people have been messing with him. Yeah, Jill, that's true. But parents really need to step up on that, you know. But I mean, it's simple. If you're not 18, turn it off. Shouldn't even be allowed. Tony, it's my understanding they were there often. Like they're working very hard on that location. All right, so let's pull out some of this stuff from Crime Watch and see where it takes us. So I thought that was pretty interesting what Slocum said. He said, I don't know if there was more people out there. All I know is that we have information that leads us to believe that the younger sketch participated. Now, what does that all mean? Well, I thought I took another video recording for you guys, but I guess I didn't upload it. Anyway, those were good enough. Slocum basically telling us, hey, maybe a multiple party is the information that they're holding close. I just can't tell. I can't read between the lines, you know. But I also wanted to pull up something interesting that I found. It's a report on the search warrant that was served on Keegan Kline. And this came out basically the next morning from Fox 59. So let me pull this up and you guys can read along. All right. Okay, so this FBI searches Peru home regarding the Delphi homicides. Nothing found. Posted actually same day. So I believe they were raided extremely early in the morning on the 25th, and this came out, says here, about 4:42 p.m. Says this is an archived article, and the information in this article may be outdated. Oh, that's an understatement. Says here, FBI agents searched a Peru home after receiving information regarding the killings of 2 Delphi teens. According to FBI spokesperson Wendy Osborne, a state search warrant was executed Saturday afternoon on a home on Canal Street in the city of Peru. After conducting the search, the federal agents determined that the home has no connections to the deaths of Liberty German and Abigail Williams. This is the second search warrant issued by the Bureau as part of a double homicide investigation. No arrests were made in connection with February 16th search of a Delphi home. Special Agent Osborne says the FBI is fully committed to this case and the Bureau will execute additional search warrants as they deem necessary. If anyone has any information, please call the FBI at 844-459-5786. Okay. So imagine how many of us read this article years ago. This tiny little article put out and thought nothing of it. It's also interesting that they say it was the second search warrant. So, I mean, it was Ron Logan, I believe, on the 17th. And then it was the Klein's residence on Canal Street. But it's just so strange they found nothing, you know? So imagine all the other information that we regurgitate and some people criticize me over. You know, we could have easily been regurgitating this information just prior to the Anthony Shots information being released. So there's stuff in here that we can help find, or at least bring some attention to. I mean, there's got to be. Hello, armchair detective. Did the killer have connection to that property? It depends on who the killer is. I mean, I think the only reason they searched Ron Logan's property is they're just, you know, going down a checklist, clearing all the obvious people first, you know. Person whose property the bodies were found. Yes, we searched this, DNA, we did all this, check mark, alibi. Okay, all the family members. Okay, boom, check mark, alibi, cleared. Who were the friends who were hanging out with them around that time? DNA, alibi, check mark, cleared. You know, that's all the stuff they do first. Five years later. And who knows what they've been up to? Who knows who they're hurting inside their own home? Crimes in other states. I mean, what if somebody was visiting from another country or something? Who, you know? Wolfrey says the family and local residents need to put pressure on law enforcement to release more info. Crime scene signatures, 2 sketches, Snapchat account, etc. I mean, I think we have all the information. You know, the signatures with the leaves, you know, the posing of the body. And there's just that third or fourth one that we really don't know. Ives said that there's 4 strange things that he thought should have been filmed or photographed. So that means there's we always say 3, but Ives clearly states there's most likely 4 that he would consider odd. We get a lot of that information from the Erskin stuff. I guess I could pull that up. You guys are most likely familiar with this leaked text messages. I mean, this is information is extremely public. But there is some viewer discretion for the end part. There is going to be some description of wounds that happened. So David Erskin states here, and he looks like he's responding to somebody. No, I'm fine. Me and my other sister's boyfriend are the ones who found the girls. Tuesday. Not much worse you can show me. He says, not even close. Okay, so this is a sick rumor, and I'm sorry to have to show you this. Thanks for letting me know. Erskin responds, no, that's not her nor Libby. Abby was placed there on the ground like a doll, hood up, hands folded, wearing the same clothes as the pic from the bridge. So right there, that's a signature. And that could even be considered non-secular, with her hands folded possibly. But I don't think that that's what he meant by non-secular. Erskin says coroner's report stated everything was over by 3:30, no rape. So 3:30 is another interesting time. For some reason, I've always thought 3, but I guess 3:30 comes directly from the coroner's report. We're assuming, by the way. I still haven't heard anybody come and basically say, hey, that's nonsense. These texts are not correct. Oh, Jen, thank you. Jen with the super sticker. Thanks for supporting the channel. What's up, Just the Facts? How you been? Good to see you. Digital, what's up? Marsh, their son was spotted on the trails on the 13th. You're referring to the Maxwell kid? Okay, let's continue reading on. So coroner's report stated everything was over by 3:30, no rape. And they respond, but I was told the report was not released. Becky Patty told me the families have not been told whether they were raped or not. She said, and she lied to you. You know, I have a feeling that those girls made a decision that, you know, they would rather die before that was going to happen on that day. Also, Abby survived until the next day she tried to crawl away. That was a horrible rumor. David Erskin responds, they were not bounded. They were touching, but not tied together. Abby was dressed. Libby was nude. So this makes me think that this kind of plays into the whole ruse theory. Abby completely clothed. Well, let me finish reading this and then I'll explain that a little more. Libby was nude. Libby's top half was covered with leaves. There's another signature. And sticks, almost like they were trying to cover her. So there's two that if these texts are the real deal, we already know two of the signatures. But you said there was no rape. If there was no rape, there was no DNA. Erskin says, correct. I don't know why she was nude, but I read the coroner's report. The only DNA would be from Libby's fingernails. She fought like hell. So she made a decision that day to fight. This seems separate. I don't know if this is from a different day, or just from a cleaner screenshot, but it says whoever did it targeted Libby for sure and knew what they were doing with Abby. It was personal with Libby. So what does that mean? They knew what they were doing. They responded, yes, I heard Libby had most of the injuries, but it could be that she was trying to defend Abby. She was bigger. Libby, she had a severe neck laceration, and apparently Abby was hit in the neck and then directly in the chest. So that's why we're going to take a look at this. But first, we're going to talk about that. So if Abby was attacked quickly, to me, that plays into the whole ruse. Oh, thank you. Just Pam says, thanks for all you do, kind sir. Hey, I just appreciate you guys hanging out with me, honestly. This is what I'd be doing privately anyway. You know, you guys are just as obsessed into this case, so we might as well talk about it together. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something compelling, you know? We're putting in, it's basically work, if you think about it. All the stuff we read, all the stuff we go through, it's like legwork. But the whole point of me showing this is to talk about the ruse. Abby, it sounds like she was hit twice. Let me pull up this image. I pulled up the human anatomy here so we could talk about it. And I did pull some information from some court recordings, but they were just too gruesome. They were talking about, I'll kind of explain it. what knife wounds mean, what the knife wound tells you about the killer or the attacker's position. And after reading that, it made me think of this right here. So if she was hit in an artery, that could mean that they were walking in front of him. So if this perpetrator is using a ruse, he's going to be like, okay, you guys keep going, walk in front of me. You guys are in big trouble or whatever. And then before they even know it, she could be attacked from behind in that area. And she could have stumbled. So I think when Erskin talks about that he knew what she was doing, it's like he hit her in the two worst places that you could ever be hit. That artery in your neck and your heart. There's no worse place. I mean, maybe directly through like a wound to the brain, but I'm talking, you got your skull and all that stuff. So when he says he knew what he was doing, this means this person could be trained, military, self-taught, may have knowledge of anatomy. I mean, he knew directly, boom, boom. And Erskin says clear as day, he knew what he was doing with Abby. That means he was could have been upset, like Keegan Kline talks about, furious that she brought somebody, or just getting them out of the way quickly, nothing personal there. And then the killer had time to go and do all the weird stuff and the rage portion of the attack, I think, was only involving Libby. That's my amateur analysis. All right. So that's pretty much it. We're coming on to 1 hour. Coming up to the 1 hour mark. So we'll just hang out here. For about another 10 minutes. Hey, Crime Vixen. Good to see you. Purposeful Pain 4217 says, how was Abby placed like a doll, but also crawling away? Well, I think the crawling away part was part of a rumor. I didn't hear any of that in the Erskin text. Anything, regarding that. Hey, what's up, Donald? Donald says Anna Williams did confirm her brother did these messages on Jason Hebert interview, for what it's worth. Thank you for that. What's up, Steffa? Okay. Yeah, Deb, that would make a lot more sense. It could be that she tried to crawl away before being posed. There could be knee prints, dirt on her knees, in her hands, maybe in her fingernails. Yeah, you're right, Wolfrey. Even though it hasn't been denied, it hasn't been corroborated, but we just heard Donald say that it was, but I haven't seen that myself. That's true, Lisa. Maybe even somebody planning a murder. Yeah, martial arts, doctor, military. That's what I'm thinking. Because even a physician would know that and would have the tools to do it effectively. I just don't know what that means. In the Erskin text, if they're real, Erskin is saying he knew what he was doing. What does that mean? To me, that's quick and clean with knowledge of very vital organs and arteries, the neck and the heart. Thanks, Joe. I did, man. I had a great weekend. Yeah, maybe that's possible. Maybe she was crawling towards, back towards Libby. One day we'll know the details. Hopefully soon. And we can all put this to rest. That's what the evidence says. But even Mike Patty stated that even with all the information he has and him being close to it, that he hasn't heard for certain that they weren't placed there. I have the video. But he says from what he's seen of the evidence and what he hears, from people who are close to the case and that he knows personally, that he believes that that's where they were, where the crime took place, is exactly where the bodies were found. Or medic or EMT, yep. Not medical, not some medical knowledge. You don't have to be a physician. Well, he didn't. In the text message, it doesn't say she was leaned against a tree, right? Just that she was sitting up, leaned up. But you can only assume. Leaker. Yeah, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. Lena Bowler says, I work at a funeral home and dead bodies are very hard to move, let alone climbing up hills and shit. Yeah, but that's one thing that brings you back to the hunter. Hunters, they know how to kill the deer, and get it out of there. And those deer and those elk and, hogs or bears or whatever it is that you're hunting are a lot heavier than a young girl or even an adult male for that matter. Yeah, I don't think so either. But you just never know. To me, it just seems like killer was stalking them, getting impatient, and then got lucky. That's it. Well, for now, lucky for now. Yep, string them up and got them. Miss Jessa Twin, hello. Did that woman who called about her hubby say he hunted? I believe so, yes. Yeah, right over the shoulder. Yeah, if you've ever carried a heavy bag of cement, that's what it would be like right heavy on your shoulder. So if they were moved like that, it's definitely, somebody who's pretty strong. Yeah, I talked to CD before I went on vacation. We were talking about getting together. And I've been seeing some of his community posts about him doing something soon, so I'm sure he's got something in the works. We'll be hearing from him soon, I'm sure. Eminem says, Sleuth, do you think his intention initially was to abduct them, but then maybe they ran and had to kill them there and then quickly? No, I think rape, I think sexual assault was the initial intention, and they weren't having it. Or, it's hard to say. You know what? I take that back. The way it played out, he went there to murder those girls. He was mad. Maybe he attempted to meet them on Sunday, and she brought Abby with her. Could be dealing with a Keegan Klein. With the information we know about him, this could be a lone wolf situation. He's angry. It's happened to him in the past. He's grown impatient. He's learning from all his past mistakes. I mean, he could have been stalking people without them even knowing, Yeah, that's what I was thinking. At least one of them. So he may have only been prepared to take out the friend, like to punish her. Like, I told you not to bring a friend. You brought a friend. Look what you did. I didn't do it. You did it. Type of thing, You made me do this. And then when he tried the whole force himself upon Libby, she wasn't having it. She made a choice. Yeah, but remember what the FBI said. Anybody strange, even looking back, if you lived in the area and you have somebody that called out sick and they had a great alibi for it, and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You went and stopped by your mother's house. Okay, that makes total sense. And then years later, you're talking with the mother, and the mother's like, hey, he never came by that day. I didn't hear from him until such and such. You start thinking, wow, that's really strange. It brings back all those suspicions. Say something. Or you're looking back at when, a relative, loved one became troubled, and you can trace it right back to that, that date. This person started doing heavy drugs, changed their appearance, did all these things right at that very moment. They also said, yeah, starting your drug addiction or changing your appearance is nothing unless you bring in location and timing. Then it may mean a whole lot. What's up, Six Pack? That's a good question, Digital. Yeah, they start off as peeping Toms, then exposing themselves, escalates, and they need greater kicks. Yep. They start getting like high off of it, like adrenaline type stuff. You ever met a thrill seeker? I used to have a buddy. He would go bungee jumping, skydiving, all this crazy stuff, right? Rock climbing. And man, he was just addicted to it. Saturday. All right, guys. That's the 1 hour mark. I might try to come back on tomorrow around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier, but I'm going to be putting some stuff together for the members. I'm sure they want to go over some things. We got a lot of creators who have become members, so I like to check out what they got going on and how I can help. And then people that just want to be in a smaller setting, You know, the members meetings are a lot more personal. You don't have this crazy chat box moving, you know, a million miles per second. All right. I want to thank everybody for showing up. If you have any questions about this information I put together, leave a comment or just shoot me an email, sleuthintuition@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you. All right, guys, you take care.
Sleuth.